Hey everyone, welcome to the video. This one we are lineup building for week 19 or the division round of the playoffs for the NFL season on Draftkings. And as I always say to start this video, the purpose of this video is not for me to spoon feed you guys a lineup to enter in all of your contests. I would highly be against that. You guys got to be able to make your own lineups, but I feel like I make enough videos throughout the week to be able to help you guys make your own lineups. I'm just going through a process of how I would possibly build a cash game or single entry GPP lineup on this slate, and then you can use this process or use some of my plays to make your own lineup. And then you can add in some of your favorite plays or some of the guys you don't like in my lineups. You could pivot, something like that. But I'm just letting you guys know who I'm kind of leaning on later in the week. If you want to see my core plays video that I go over pretty much everyone that's in my player pool as of right now, you can check. I think I posted that on Wednesday night, and I can put that in a card like right over there or something, or way up there I should say. But so if you want to check that out, check it out before you watch this if you want to, and then you can come back and watch this, and then that's pretty much it. So before we continue, as always, if you guys could just leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Pennell16. I would say if you're interested, check out my spreadsheets that I make every single week for the NFL season, but we only have like 2 or 3 weeks left, so probably don't want to do that. But I do make NBA. I do have an NBA sheet I make every single night. Also, we'll be doing MLB when that comes up, and NASCAR if you want to check that out when the time comes. I also have a Discord chat as well. All right, without further ado, let's get into this slate. And this is my lineup building video, so I'm not going to talk about every single person on this slate. Just going to be talking about the guys that we're going to be plugging in this lineup. If you want to check out the video where I talk about everybody else, check out the core plays video. I'll try to link it in the description. If I remember. I probably won't remember. So you're going to have to do a little bit of work yourself. All right, so Patrick Mahomes, he's the guy we're plugging in our lineups. I said in my core plays video, he's my numero uno QB for this week, considering you get a $900 discount off of Lamar Jackson, and I absolutely love this spot for Mahomes at home versus Houston. And trust me, I like Lamar, but he's like $1,000 more expensive, and I think Mahomes I don't think he's going to absolutely outscore him, but I think he can at least stay close, and he does have the upside to outscore him. We've seen 30-point games out of Patrick Mahomes this season before. I think he can kind of hang with Lamar Jackson, and if the Texans keep this game competitive, Mahomes could potentially hit close to 40 points if he's having to throw the ball the entire game. And the Chiefs also have a 30.25 team total, which is the highest on the slate, and we have a 51-point over-under, which is also the highest on the slate by about 5 points. So we definitely want exposure to this game, and it would make sense to want to get the QB in this game, and arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. And Houston's pass defense is absolutely atrocious, and the rush D isn't good either, but you guys get the point. They have a very, very bad defense. Now, J.J. Watt being back helps them out a little bit, but still not a very good defense nonetheless. And they are 26th DVA versus the pass. They're allowing 23.2 points per game to quarterbacks, which is second most. I think Josh Allen had like 27 points versus them last week, although he did catch a touchdown. Mahomes isn't going to catch a touchdown in this game, and if he does, I wouldn't mind it, but I don't think he's going to. But still, Josh Allen would have had over 20 points either way, at least close to it. And I just don't really see how the Texans' defense stops them. On average, they're giving up 280 and 2, and I think Mahomes can easily get like 300 plus and 3 or maybe 4 if we're lucky. Just depends on how many touchdowns Damian Williams or someone like that scores. And also, he could throw the ball to Damian Williams. And actually, we'll see Damian Williams later in this lineup. But absolutely love the Chiefs here. They're not going to let up the gas because we saw the Texans come back down 16, and the Chiefs don't want to let the Texans back in this game and let Deshaun Watson work his late game magic. So I think the Chiefs just put it on. Are they going to cover their 9-point spread? I think it's 9.5-point spread. That might be a little aggressive, but I do think this game can at least stay close enough for it's a really back and forth game. You might be able to hit over the 51. We'll see, but definitely like Patrick Mahomes here at 7,500. We're going to plug him in. And as I always say, I love Sunday exposure when we got a Saturday and Sunday slate. Give me the guys in the late game because if I get a dud early on, I am very, very upset. So give me the late game. Give me Patrick Mahomes. I absolutely love him on this slate. So now we head on to the running back position. And unfortunately, I was not able to get Aaron Jones in with all the other people I want. And trust me, I love Aaron Jones. He is my number 1 running back on this slate just from my projection standpoint. I mean, Derrick Henry's right there with him, but just from like a point per dollar projection standpoint of all these high-end guys, Aaron Jones is my numero uno. And am I terrified of not having him in this example lineup? Yes, it's kind of scary because he is going to be very, very high owned, and I think his ceiling is absolutely massive versus Seattle. But he's not in this lineup, but I'm just letting you guys know I absolutely love Aaron Jones. But the running back I'm going to plug in is Damian Williams, who I actually think he might be the highest owned quarterback running back on this slate, especially because a lot of casual players play in the playoffs because, season-long fantasy is over, and they're going to look at the game log, and they're going to see 18, they're going to see 34, they're going to be like, heck yeah, let's plug in Damian Williams. He's $6K, he's pretty cheap. And I'm not saying that's not a reason to not to play him, but he did get a little lucky on that long touchdown versus the Chargers. But I still like Damian Williams here quite a bit. And I expect him to be one of the highest on running backs. And I know LaShawn McCoy exists. I know Darwin Thompson exists. But this is the main running back here. And Spencer Ware's on the IR. And they don't have time to play around in the playoffs. They got to get their best players the ball. And that's pretty easily Damian Williams at this point. And, LaShawn McCoy's always been healthy inactive in recent weeks. So got to like Damian Williams here. He should see 15, 20 touches if we're lucky. But he did have 7 targets last week, which I do like. So he's going to be the main pass-catching running back either way. And it's actually a pretty good correlation to pair him with Patrick Mahomes because he is a pass catcher. And if we get like a receiving touchdown between Damian Williams and Patrick Mahomes, we'll all be dancing in the streets. So we will take it. But Damian Williams, like him quite a bit. It's a really good matchup versus Houston. They're 22nd DVOA versus the run, and they allow the 6th most points per game to running backs. And they're massive home favorites, 9.5 point favorites at home. I always say I love that out of my running backs. So Damian Williams, I think he's a tremendous play here. It's against a pretty bad rush defense in the Houston Texans. He's going to get the most touches in this backfield. Damian Williams, sign me up at 6K. I think he's a very safe play considering he has receiving upside. So we're going to plug him in. Then a guy I was a little bit on the fence in my core plays video. It was Raheem Mostert. We're actually going to plug him in mostly because it just fits my lineup, but I think he's still a pretty good play. Now, is he part of a 3-headed committee? Yes, but he's also going to be the main running back in this committee, and he's I shouldn't say by far, but he is the best running back here. And the guy's been a touchdown machine in the past, I think, like 6 games now. I might be a little tough banking on a touchdown, but I mean, he's been scoring touchdowns, and now is it a little bit fluky? Maybe. Is he due not to get a touchdown? Maybe, but it is the playoffs, and the 49ers are pretty big favorites. I shouldn't say big favorites. I think they're 4.5 point favorites at home, but it does set up well for a guy like Raheem Mostert, who's not going to be too heavily involved in the passing game, but he can catch passes if he's needed to. I know he had that nice touchdown versus, I believe, Cincinnati, where he caught a nice receiving touchdown, and he did that versus New Orleans as well. But I expect him to get double-digit touches here, maybe like 10 to 15. But he's a very efficient runner, so I think he'll be fine either way. I don't remember his yards per carry on the season. Yeah, 5.6 yards per carry. That's pretty darn good. 137 attempts, 772 rushing yards. That's pretty efficient. And now, is it a bad matchup versus Minnesota? Yeah, it's a pretty tough matchup. Alvin Kamara had a tough time running against them, as did Latavius Murray. But I think the 49ers offense, I think they're going to be fine here. I think they're going to have a lead. I think they're going to be running the ball quite a bit. And it's the playoffs. You can't mess around and give your other worst players the ball. I think Raheem Mostert is going to easily get the most touches in this backfield, and I think he's a safe bet for like 12 to 15 points with upside of more, just depending on how many touchdowns he scores. But if you look at the recent games, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 1, and then he wasn't the head of the committee at this point. But since with the Green Bay game, he's been pretty much the main running back. So I like Raheem Mostert here. He's cheap enough. I'm going to plug him in. Is it a little scary not having Aaron Jones? Absolutely, but I think Damian Williams, Raheem Mostert can at least be somewhat close value-wise if Aaron Jones doesn't score like 2 to 3 touchdowns. If Aaron Jones only scores 100 touchdowns, only gets like close to 100 yards and a touchdown, we might be able to be okay as long as Damian Williams and Raheem Mostert can possibly get to the end zone. So those are the 2 running backs we're going to roll with as of right now. My wide receiver one, I said it in my core play video. I like Devontae Adams, but I'm going to pair Patrick Mahomes up with his number 1 wide receiver, Tyreek Hill. And it just makes all the sense in the world here. Absolutely love this stack. Is it going to be sneaky? Absolutely not. I expect these guys to be some of the highest owned players on the slate, but I think it's for a very good reason. I mean, this is just a smash spot for Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs, especially for the passing game. Against one of the league's worst pass defense. They rank 26th DVA versus the pass. And Hill does draw PFF's number 1 wide receiver versus cornerback matchup of the week versus Garyon Conley. And he should also see a lot of Vernon Hargreaves in the slot, which is even a better matchup as he's the worst graded corner on the slate according to PFF, because Tyreek Hill plays in the slot a little bit less than 50% of the time. So that means he's going to be seeing quite a bit of Vernon Hargreaves, and that guy is just absolute trash. And so it's an absolute smash spot for Tyreek Hill and company. He's just too fast. You can't guard him. I mean, even if he's having a dud game late into the game, it only takes one play for him to absolutely break the slate with like an 80-yard touchdown. So if you're fading him, you never feel comfortable because, you can be looking away from your TV and then you look up and then it's Tyreek Hill streaking down the field all by himself and getting an 80-yard touchdown. So it only takes one play with Tyreek Hill. We're going to plug him in. I think he can get close to 10 targets here, and I think he's going to have a very good game versus Houston. So I'm going to plug him in. I think he absolutely smashes. And then I said one of my locks of the week is Deebo Samuel here at 5,200. I absolutely loved him in my first look video. I loved him in my core plays video, and I love him again on Friday morning. He is just so good of a play to me, in my opinion. And in my opinion, I expect him to be pretty high owned, but this is just a smash spot for Deebo Samuel. And I know Emmanuel Sanders exists, but he's the wide receiver 1 on this team. I would much rather play Deebo Samuel over Emmanuel Sanders. And Deebo, I think he's going to be a very, very good wide receiver. Now, just keep in mind, this is his first season, and he has been very, very good. And he looks really good on the field if you've ever watched a 49ers game, which I assume you have. Deebo looks great. And I absolutely love this matchup versus the Vikings banged up secondary. They're giving up about 40 points per game to wide receivers, which is 7th most in the NFL. And you should see a good deal of Xavier Rhodes, which is actually a very good thing. I know a lot of people really don't pay attention to wide receiver cornerback matchups. You might hear Xavier Rhodes' name and think, oh, that's kind of tough. It used to be. Nowadays, he is one of the worst corners in the NFL, according to PFF. He has a 46th grade, which is the second worst on this slate, only behind Vernon Hargreaves, according to PFF. And he's allowing the second most yards per route covered on this slate and the second most fantasy points per route covered as well. So he has been just very, very bad. I think, what's his name? Deontay Harris burned him in the last game, although I guess Harrison Smith was a little bit at fault. But if you get burned by Deontay Harris and Taysom Hill's throwing the ball, that's when you know times are getting a little bit tough for you. But I absolutely love Deebo here. He's got PFF's number 2 wide receiver versus cornerback matchup right behind Tyreek Hill. So it makes a lot of sense in the world to like Deebo here. We're going to be plugging him in. I think he's a tremendous play. So I absolutely love him in the mid-range. Now we're going to go for a cheap wide receiver, and we're going to be looking at Marquise Brown here at 4,400. I expect him to be the highest owned cheap wide receiver, and it makes sense. So it's a complete total price play, as the guy's floor is insanely low. I mean, we've seen 3 points, 1 point, 2 points, but he's got a high ceiling. We saw it versus Miami. We saw it versus the Jets game where he had 14.5 points. He had a good game versus the Rams. I believe it was Monday Night Football. We had 21 points. But the guy's got an extremely low floor. And if he scores like 4 points, I would not be surprised at all. But I do expect him to be popular. 4,400 seems a little bit cheap here. Lamar Jackson's, I shouldn't say number 1 because that's Mark Andrews, but he's the number 1 wide receiver, which doesn't always lead to a lot of targets. 2 targets, 2 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets. But he does have upside, and that's what we need on a small slate. We need guys with upside, not these boring players. So Marquise Brown, I think he makes sense, and it is a good matchup versus Tennessee. They're ranked 21st DVA versus the pass compared to 10th DVA versus the run. Volume's not great, like I said, but he does have big play upside, and that's what we need on a slate like this. So we're going to plug him in and just hope for the best. Maybe he catches a long touchdown, and then we'll be pretty happy. And at this point, this is where you can go a couple ways. So the thing I'm going to do right now is plug in the 49ers defense because I think they're the easiest, best play at defense this week. You could obviously look at the Packers at home. I like all the home defenses. You could look at the Chiefs at home. You also look at the Ravens at home. But the 49ers defense, the Vikings have the lowest implied team total, and they're playing at home, and they're very good defense. So I think the 49ers defense just makes a ton of sense here at 3K. Now at this point, we have 52.50 left, and there's a couple ways you can go here. So I'll show you my pivots. If you want to just go with not even worrying about stacking with Kelce, you could just plug in George Kittle here. He's 200 cheaper, and honestly might have more upside than Kelce. So we can plug him in. I mean, George Kittle has been an absolute monster this season. We know that. I honestly think he might be the most talented tight end in the NFL over Travis Kelce at this point. They're the top 2 by obviously. And then you got like the Zach Ertz, Mark Andrews tier. And I might be forgetting someone off the top of my head, but George Kittle, the guy's just absolutely awesome. He's just so fun to watch. He's so good. I remember you guys saw that block where he threw the guy down and was screaming. That was pretty sweet. But I mean, he leads all tight ends in pretty much all these categories. 28% target share, 60% weighted opportunity share, 26% market share, 80% catch rate, which tops. He's just absolutely elite. He's got all the skill sets in the world. And the matchup, it's not great, but matchups mean nothing to me with Kittle. So if you want to play him, I say go for it. 6,200, don't mind him at all. Now at this point, we have 4,300 left, and then we pretty much just fill in who fits at the end. And so Sammy Watkins, it would actually make sense because we're playing Patrick Mahomes, and by not playing Travis Kelce, we could get another pass catcher in our lineup. I just hate playing Sammy Watkins. The guy's just not that good. I know he had that great game week 1 versus Jacksonville, but that's been pretty much it all season. I think he had more points. Yeah, week 1, I think he scored more points than he did the rest of the season in that week. I'd have to do the math, but I think that's might be close. Maybe not, but it's close. But he should see a handful of targets here. You know, if Houston sells out to try to stop Tyreek Hill, it could leave us some open running room for Sammy Watkins. I don't love it, but it is a nice correlation play, and I would assume Sammy Watkins would at least be somewhat low-owned because he's Sammy Watkins, but it's not the worst play in the world. So in this example, we have Mahomes, Damian Williams, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Marquise Brown, George Kittle, Sammy Watkins, and the 49ers defense. I actually think that's pretty solid. We got a lot of good correlation in here. Or if you want to go with Travis Kelce, you could go with... Now, he actually became limited in practice, so we'll have to monitor that, but I'm going to assume he's going to be fine, but there's no reason not to like Kelce here. I mean, does it seem like he's had a down year? Because to be honest, it does, because I actually owned him in fantasy. I drafted him in the 2nd round. He felt like he had an underwhelming year, but if you just look at the end results, not really. He had 97 catches, 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, which might seem why he had a down year, because he's usually better than 6 touchdowns. Usually we'd expect close to at least double digits, if not more. So the touchdowns really haven't been there, but I think he can definitely get one versus the Texans here. And it's just good to pair him up with, Patrick Mahomes. You get pair him up with his number one options in Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Damian Williams, Patrick Mahomes. I just love just full game stacking the Chiefs. I have no problem with that. They got the highest implied team total on this slate, so it makes sense to want to get a lot of exposure to the Chiefs. And for the matchup for the Texans, it's okay. They're giving up the 12th most points per game to tight ends, and his individual tight end versus safety matchup actually looks pretty great according to PFF. He's going up against Tayshaun Gibson, who allows 1.56 yards per route covered, which is most on this slate. I think it's one of the most in the NFL as well. And he's allowing 0.36 fantasy points per route covered and an 84% catch rate, which by far leads this slate. I absolutely love Kelce here. He's getting over 8 targets per game. He's got a 24% target share, 25% market share, 53 weighted opportunity share. I think he makes a ton of sense. So if we plug him in this example, we'd have 4,100 left, so we can't get walk-ins, which that'd probably be a little bit too much Chiefs anyway. So we could... There's a couple options here. You could look at Jacob Hollister. You could look at David Moore. I feel like Hollister would be more safe than David Moore. That'd be the worst player in the world. And he only had 4 targets in the last game. That's probably more targets than David Moore's going to get. So I think he's a safer bet for more targets. But really, you need him getting to the end zone for him to really have that good of a game. But I like his chances of getting double-digit points over David Moore, unless David Moore breaks a big play. But I wouldn't hate Jacob Hollister, so we can plug that in. I don't hate that either. So this one, you'd have Patrick Mahomes, Damian Williams, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Marquise Brown, Travis Kelce, Jacob Hollister, 49ers defense. I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope it was helpful. And if it was, remember to leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Really appreciate it. When NFL is over, I will be doing NBA videos, which I already do now. Then we'll be shifting into MLB, which MLB is my favorite sport. So I am going to be all in for MLB. I love baseball. And then NASCAR is starting soon, which I know NASCAR might sound silly, but that's actually what I started doing on YouTube, because I absolutely love NASCAR, and there's a huge edge in NASCAR. A lot of these sports, the edge is, it's not gone, but it's definitely gotten tougher. Now, a lot of people don't know what they're doing in NASCAR, so I actually think there's the biggest edge in NASCAR, and it's been my most profitable sport. So if you want to check the NASCAR videos, and that comes out in early February, hey, check them out. If it's not for you, it's not for you, but I absolutely love NASCAR. I do think there's a pretty big edge in that as well. All right, guys, leave it with that. I already said everything I need to say. Follow me on Twitter, ChrisPennell16. Check out the spreadsheets, and remember to leave a like. Comment whatever you want. Unless it's mean, don't comment that. It's not very nice. Although you can. I'll talk back. But see you guys in the next video.